Hey Google, where can we find Melbourne's best branding photographer?
Right here in this building with Fi Mims.
Fi Mims, welcome to the show.
So good to be here.
So for those that don't know, you literally about 6 steps.
We're neighbours.
We are neighbours. And I think you were the first person that I met after the landlord of this place.
Yes, I think, lucky you. Lucky me.
Lucky
It's
us.
been great having you guys in the building. Really
It has.
good.
And so can you tell us a little bit about what it is that Fi Mims photography does? I mean, I suppose the name gives it away, but
Yes, it does. Although there are many types of photographers in the world, I'm a photographer specialising in personal branding photography.
lovely.
Which I didn't start out that way. I've been in the game for 15 years, a long time, and I did my time as a wedding photographer for 10 years, which
Yeah.
I loved, really loved. But as I had my kids, I decided for a lifestyle decision to phase those out and
Not your
was-
kids.
not the kids.
phase out.
Unfortunately, it wasn't an option. No, I actually love my kids.
They
I
don't
love
come
my
with
kids.
receipts, right? You can't give them back.
No time
Anyway.
sharing or anything. No, no looking back from that. No, they're awesome. No, I love my kids. Just in case you're listening.
They are awesome. I saw your New Year's videos on your social media videos.
Oh, we went to the Dramana Drive-In.
Yes.
That was great fun.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yes.
I know that place.
I was falling asleep and they wanted to stay watching. But no, so as I had my kids, I think the beauty of having your own business and a little bit of flexibility, one of those benefits is being able to evolve and change things. So
Yeah.
I decided to phase out of the weddings, and I was also doing a lot of family photography at the time, which I kept up. But as I phased out of my wedding photography genre, I started working more with people in terms of business photography. Back then, it wasn't really personal branding photography. That term wasn't really spoken about a lot. It started to come in a couple of years later, but started to be such a need for people to need business images to
Yeah.
promote themselves. I worked mostly and still do work mostly with women, and as of the last few years, it's pretty much been the core of my business. And if you go to my website now, you'll see that I am promoted or I am advertised as a personal branding photographer, which I
Yeah.
love. It's
Lovely.
great work.
And where are you based?
My studio is in Elstonwick, so Melbourne, Australia, but I do travel. I'm
You
going
do?
Going to Hawaii in April.
To shoot?
Yes, to
Wow.
shoot. Yes, there's a company, fantastic coaching company called Beautiful You that travels occasionally every year, and I sometimes go and shoot their events,
Oh,
which
that's
is lots
awesome.
of fun. So I don't get those gigs often, but yeah, that'll be great fun.
That's all. Well, not yet. You don't get them often yet, but they're
Yes, I'm open for business people.
yeah. I always thought about running an ad on in another country saying Australia's best videographer is coming to town, so book me out
Yes.
just to see what happens.
Yeah, well,
And
you
if
just got to try things, don't you?
If you get a booking, just go.
Yeah. But most of my work is Melbourne based. I used to live fairly central, but I moved to the peninsula about a year ago, and I've probably found that most of my work is sort of bayside, but photographers, we travel everywhere,
Yeah.
wherever the gig takes us,
Yeah.
which is great as well. I do a lot of interstate work and but
what's
mostly Melbourne.
What's it like living in heaven?
Well, you're in heaven too, aren't you?
Yes.
You know what? It was such a big change, and I previously always said I was a very urban chick, and I still love the city, but I don't know whether it was timing or just as you grow older, but I love it down there.
Yeah.
And we literally moved almost to the day a year ago. So we moved, and the next day the kids started school, and it was just crazy. So we didn't really have a lot of time to enjoy the summer, but we've just obviously had a month of summer, and we all got surfboards and stand-up paddle boards and stuff
Lovely.
for Christmas. So we've been surfing around the peninsula, and not very well, mind you. I don't know if I'd actually call it surfing.
You see, that we have to get stand-up paddleboards.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't think our garage is big enough, though.
Then you got to join one of the yacht clubs, and
That's
then you can
true.
store it down
Just
there.
leave it there.
Yeah. But no, it's get an inflatable. There's inflatable
I saw
stand-up
that.
paddle boards. A lot of people are using them.
I know, I've been looking
Yes.
at them. They
Yeah,
seem they're tempting for sure.
Yeah. But no, I love it. And it's great that, again, my business has allowed me that flexibility to move down there, and still I can travel for work, and it's great. But I feel, might sound silly, but I feel more of an Australian living near the beach.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I was
I know.
never really a beach person either. Like I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily love swimming in the beach. But I feel like that's kind of changed as well, just being near that water. And I
Yeah.
think that is what our country's about. I feel like gives me a lot of respect for the country, and also just lucky that I'm able to soak up what it's got to offer a little bit more these days.
How beautiful is it coming up over Oliver's Hill?
Yes.
Or even Mount Martha, and just seeing the ocean on the
Yes.
right hand side is just so gorgeous.
Well, we used to rent right on the Nepean Highway over the hill. So every morning I drove down that hill. But now that we moved into our own house about 4 months ago, I don't get that anymore.
Oh,
So I
no.
have to go out of my way to get that view. But it's stunning. Like, it's just beautiful coast
So
down there.
nice.
Yeah. It's
I think we've spent more money on sunscreen than we ever have in our
good
entire
reason, though.
lives.
With good reason.
So do you want the good news or the bad news?
Oh, the fruit platter's not coming?
Well, we had a naked man sorted for here, but I don't know. It was all for you, apparently. I didn't get a say, but he's stuck in traffic. So. He's got a sushi stuck somewhere. Anyway. So do you want the bad news?
Okay.
You got a parking fine.
Oh, no.
And I'm sorry I had to tell you on this podcast.
Oh my gosh, do you know what? My car alarm went off and I just ignored it.
Did
and
it?
kept working. And you know what? I've been doing that for months now, and I've been so lucky. I knew today had to come.
You know, every time we don't get a parking fine, we're like, yeah, let's go have a nice dinner somewhere.
Damn it. There go my shoes, hey, that I wanted to buy.
We just take it off and put it on someone that's got a rich car. an
People might
expensive
not
car.
read the fine print. That would be quite awful and mean, but funny if
But
that happened.
it's biohacking.
Yeah.
It's like a
Officer, it blew off in the wind. Yeah. Gosh, I have a real pet hate for parking and speeding fines, mostly speeding fines. Like, I know we shouldn't speed, but man, they really sock you these days with the fines, don't they? It's so, yeah. Anyway,
I like that
don't start me.
I like that the being on your phone fine has gone up to $1,000
Oh, has it?
or something like that. I think that's good.
Yeah. I mean, that is really dangerous. It is. Yeah. So that is good.
I've got that little.
I mean, they do have to, they do have to slow you down and make sure you're not being distracted. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
You just feel hard done by when
Yeah, I
you
know.
hit so often.
I know. So besides all these fines that you're getting,
Does anyone want to pay my fine for me?
hey, put it out there. Someone of our 20 million listeners might
I'll give you a free headshot.
Oh, you hear that? And not the speeding fine shot.
My headshots cost more than the fines, just so you know. So I probably shouldn't have said that, should I?
No, well,
I'll give you a free image with your headshot session.
there you go.
There we go. That's about the same cost.
Lovely. So I love your studio.
I have. I've probably got I have got the nicest space in the building. I've got a beautiful space with natural
Absolutely.
light at the back there.
So beautiful.
Yeah, I've said come and use it when you need to.
Yeah, I know. But we've been building this.
Yeah, and this is a great little space. Really nice.
Yeah,
I
we
love
put
the
up-
way you decorate.
I don't know if the camera can see, but we put up the if you just look behind you, the soundproof, and then it all fell. It all fell. So we just put it up real quick right now, so that's why it doesn't. But we came in the next day and it was all on the floor. Like that's.
Are you using those 3M things?
Yes,
Oh, they're usually really good.
I know.
You can't use my room anyway because, well, actually, you can use
Thanks,
it.
thanks, Fi.
But
She-
no, it's not me. It's not me. It's the elements. I have a tin roof.
Oh
I don't know,
yeah,
Is it noisy back here? Because when it rains up there, you can hardly hear yourself.
yeah. We don't really pick it up in these mics.
Ah,
Yeah,
there we go.
and if we do, the editing team, the specialized editing team,
They do that reduced noise
do their
thing.
magic thing.
That is magic too. It does seem like magic what you guys do with your videos.
And we also on this thing, I don't know if you guys can see, this records 2 files.
Right.
One at this normal speaking sound and another one at a lower speaking sound. So at a lower decibel. So that if anything peaks or anything there's any distraction, we can switch over to that one and we can amp that one up so it picks up less of the sound. Is it nice to be all techie?
It is. But you know what? That's why people use you, because you're good and you've got the gear.
That's right. And we're good. And
You're good. I did say that, didn't
Good.
I?
Did
Ahead
you-
of the gear.
GorillaCo is good at what they
You
do.
are. You guys are amazing.
When
You
that gets
edited a video
transcribed-
for me this year. I loved it.
Did you?
I loved what you did. The one for
Good.
Gemma.
Did you love it?
I loved it. It
Awesome.
was great.
I'm glad.
Great.
It's nice when we get feedback like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
you've been in business for more than 10 years. That's amazing.
Yes,
You
it
know-
is. And I actually feel very proud of that. In
Absolutely.
business, doing the same thing, which is running my own. I mean, look, it has been flexible around kids, so I pulled it back a little bit and then built it up again. But I have been able to pay myself for 15 years, which, yeah, because I think as a business owner, you can often just bash yourself around a lot about, I'm not successful enough, I'm not making enough money, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not as good as them, and in the online world with social media, we're always, I think, at risk of comparing ourselves to other people that look like they're doing better than we are. But I have learnt to really stop and go, hey, I'm still in business.
Yeah.
And just that's success, really. That's success to me. I'm doing what I love. And, I'm always trying to do it better and run my business better. But I'm really proud that I'm still in business.
What you just said, comparing yourself, it's something that we try and stay away from as much as we can.
Yeah.
But I did that the other morning. Like I woke up and the first thing I did, I opened my Facebook, which I shouldn't. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. And there was a competitor of mine, and I just see them doing so well. Yeah. And I just couldn't help but get a little bit like, why is my business not, why are we not celebrating those things? And it was hard.
Everyone looks like they're doing well online, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all, it's tricky, and I get triggered a lot as well, but I recognise my triggers now, and you have to be in the right mindset when you go online. You have to not spend too much time on there, and I think, like you said, time of day is important. So I was finding I was always looking at Instagram last thing before bed, and it would put me in such a bad mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, I jump on there at times and love what I see, but you're right. If you come across, a competitor, and lots of my competitors are also wonderful friends. Like we get along really well, but I actually, just with being honest and transparent, I will not follow them through my business account, or I will choose when I will go and just say, hey, I want to see what so-and-so is up to. And then, I'll shoot them a message and say, love that shot, or love your work, or you're doing great. But you have to be really careful, I think, because it is so easy to
spiral.
To spiral.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between, what do I say, inspiration and, I had a better word for it, but it was between inspiration and comparison. Yeah.
It's so unhealthy for the mind.
It is.
And I can't imagine what it's like having kids. Like how do you break the cycle of feeling sorry for yourself in a sense, and then you might pass that on to your kids. Like if your competitor did something amazing, you're like, damn it, I should have done that. Or, that's it. Isn't it hard to break that cycle of passing that negativity onto your kids?
Yeah, I think so. And you also want the best for your kids. So really being careful around how much you push them or let them do what they want to do or be at the level they're at, really important. And I suppose maybe as a woman as well, I feel a lot of pressure because, I know it's tough for guys as well, but as a woman, there's a lot of judgment around looks and shape and what you achieve and trying to do all the things. So I'm really mindful of how I talk about not only how I talk in terms of whether I'm happy or sad, but also about how I talk about myself in front of my kids. I've got a girl and a boy. They're twins, by the way. So it's important for both of them. But, I find as a parent the hardest thing is battling the lack of sleep and the tiredness, because I find when I'm tired, I'm a bad parent. And that's when I can get down on my kids, and it's got nothing to do necessarily with how they're behaving, but it's just, which comes back to, looking after yourself. Yeah. Which I think, again, something as a business owner, you can put yourself last a lot.
Absolutely. And you guys
find that?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. So I've always said when you own a business, you are in a relationship with your business. And that means you're in a relationship with your staff. So you have to treat them, and you have to go home and have the relationship with your family, and then go to work and have a relationship with your staff. That's hard. That's hard to do. It's hard to switch off, at times when you need to. But I wanted to ask you, your family, you're all entrepreneurs, right? Your husband owns his own business as well.
Yes, he does.
So you've got your own business, and I find that business owners, we strive. We're a different breed of human.
Yes.
Not better or
agree.
worse
No.
than but just different.
Yes.
And I find that we are very headstrong.
I think you have to be
to
survive.
Yeah.
Because business is, how long have you been in business for?
So I started, I think, at the end or just at the start of 2011.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, which is a long time
Yeah.
too. I think I mean, back to when I started, it was still yellow pages and social media wasn't around, and workshops were always in person, and it was just such a different ball game. So it's much harder now. So I think unless you're driven, you just don't survive.
Yeah.
And you have to be savvy as well. You have to know how to run your books as well as market and do what you're really gifted at, unless you're lucky enough to outsource. But again, you have to be able to do all that stuff still to get to that point. And I think regardless of outsourcing, you have to know how to do all that stuff and be across it all, don't you? You're the
exactly.
CEO. You're the CEO of your business. But I caught up with a friend a few weeks ago who's got her own business, and she's just coming back in after having a little girl of about 18 months. And we were sitting there banging on about all this business stuff, about the coaches we follow and the podcasts we listen to do, and just all manner of things. And then I just stopped and went, oh my God, if people around us weren't running their own business and they were listening to our conversation, they would just think we're crazy. Like, you just feel like you're in a bit of a bubble, I think. Like you said, it's a different type of lifestyle.
And I find that with my friends, we have different things to talk about. So like they talk about the politics at work, which is what I'm sure my staff talk about, you know, if there is. But as the business owner, we talk about how we close the next deal, or how we, you know, how we. I find something that really rewarding is being able to provide for the family.
Yeah.
Like that's a massive thing.
It's massive. Yeah, really massive. And I think, I suppose personally as a photographer, I have battled with that a lot over the years, because it's, you know, you have to work really hard, I think, to make an income that's comparable to what you would get working for a corporate, which I did for 7 years before I went into photography. And I don't know why it's so different, but when you step out on your own, it's really hard to then charge those same rates. I suppose it's more competitive as well, but we're more willing to give up our time for some reason, and yet we work harder. So yeah, I'm getting off track here, aren't I? I don't know, but it is. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, I understand. Why is that the case though? Why is that the case that we will sacrifice?
I think it's because we look at our business as selling ourselves, when really we should be looking at our business in a different perspective, the products and the value we give to people. And I think we often sell ourselves short, or we just find it because it's personal. I know, because I work with a lot of women in particular that run their own business, that's what I feel from them. And I think that's why I love working with them as well, because it just resonates with me. I understand it, I feel it, I battle it as well. But I think there's a lot of struggle around charging what you're worth and understanding what you're worth.
Yeah.
And then there's competition on top of that. So we get sort of
hammered.
And then we lose our confidence and we compare ourselves to other people. And I think it's, you know, then you start spiraling, don't you? Yeah.
And I don't know if this is going to sound silly or not, but because of the way mainstream media is, that we have, there's women compare themselves a lot more because there's a lot more material for them to compare themselves to. I find like every magazine or every thing on the news is all about some woman, you know, looking like this or being like this or whatever. So naturally women are going to be more, they're going to compare themselves a lot more because that's all they're seeing.
Yes.
Right. So when you take that, right, and you put that woman into a business environment, right, how can you not continue those traits? How can you not compare yourself to other women? Because you're so trained at doing it. But men as well, right? Men as well.
Yes.
But for us, I think it's a little bit different.
Your success is often graded differently. I agree. And whilst I know there's also a certain image quality around guys, it's definitely much more amplified for women. And it's stupid things like, I'll never be uber successful because I've got fat thighs, or, you know.
Something stupid like that.
Really stupid and completely irrelevant. But I think it's just what evolution has done to us, and it's where we are right now. And I think we're slowly trying to battle that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll ever go completely. I honestly don't, but I hope we'll get better at battling it. And again, like for our generation, hopefully teaching our children not to judge themselves that way. Yeah.
Is that a big emphasis at the home?
It is. I think I had a lot of those issues when I was sort of late teens, early 20s, which I got over, and I have never really looked back. Like, I still have my bad days and don't like my thighs, but I don't let it judge the way I feel about myself or what I do. But particularly having a girl, like, I don't talk about the way I look around her or my weight, but, you know, she's 10 going on 11 and she'll comment on things about her body, and I know that I can tell that image is important to her and looking pretty.
At such a young age.
At such a young age, because they're on social media now, you know,
Yeah.
they're on YouTube and
Yeah.
just watching Barbie in the Dream House, you know, like, unless you completely shelter your kids, which you can't, it's really impossible to escape that.
I've read a lot of papers on raising especially with girls, telling them not that they're pretty, but rather telling that they're smart.
Yes.
Because when a girl understands that she's smart, like, the world's her oyster.
Absolutely.
But when a girl thinks that all she has is her looks, then it's all dependent on what other people perceive of you.
Yeah, yeah. So continually trying to point out good role models for them.
Yeah.
Getting them to read the right books. Yeah, absolutely. Trying to use that right language. And I think that's really, even if that's exactly what you intend to do, I mean, I probably slip up all the time, just not even knowing it, because that's just become our language, the way we talk.
Yeah.
And I know my parents, you know, they grew up in that generation of the 60s and 70s, and, oh, my God, a lot of the things they say make me cringe, and yet I know they're very, like, you know, they're not racist, they're all for equality and all the rest of it, but it's just the language they use and the time they grew up in. So I just hope that we get better and better.
Yeah. Well, kids are going to look at us when we're, like, in our 80s, and they'll be like, oh, there's mum again.
My kids
with
are
her
always
tolerant
telling me,
crap.
yes. I think we're pretty, I mean, the world is changing. It's too slow. It is way too slow, just in terms of, you know, all sorts of issues, equality, Indigenous rights, you know, the Me Too movement, everything. It's just so slow. So there's part of me that's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is ridiculous. We should be a really progressive country and all this should be just done and dusted and let's just move on. But then you have to understand that it's just generational, and it just takes time, doesn't it? And you've got to boot certain politicians out and get new ones in.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I wonder, like, this is completely shifting our subject matter, but I wonder if, like, as Australians, we are maybe slightly too apathetic as well.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, and maybe that's because our politicians don't really impress us that much or inspire us. But I know
they
personally,
just don't give a shit, these politicians.
Well, that's all a game, isn't it?
I know.
It's all a game. But I've felt really disengaged from politics over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I'm this year thinking, right, I've got to get back engaged. And I think it's important. But it sucks because you just feel like you have so little power.
Yes. I agree. What's one voice going to do? It seems like nothing.
But you just have to, though, don't you?
Yeah,
You have to.
absolutely.
Anyway, that's politics done.
And in life is so short, and everything takes so long to change. Like, it feels like we'll never see anything progressive in our lifetime.
And for people that are impacted, you know, whether it's gender issues or, you know, Indigenous Australians, like, God, it must be frustrating. So frustrating. Because as for a privileged white person, or, you know, gay, not gay male, but, you know, straight white male or whatever, you know, it's you don't feel it.
Just call me a gay male.
Slipped out, sorry. I don't know.
It wasn't my idea to bring the gay man.
Sides.
It wasn't. Actually, we don't know if he was going to be gay or not.
Anyway. Oh God.
What's your background? Where are you Australian?
Yes, I grew up in Springvale South.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
For first 10 years of my life, and then my parents moved to Berwick. And I grew up until uni, I lived in Berwick. My parents had a small business in Noble Park, which is close to Dandenong, for 30, 40 years. I don't know,
what was the
long
business?
time. It was a Retrovision store. They sold electrical appliances.
Oh, really?
Yes, back in the not so competitive days
Wow.
before the big superstores. And my dad is a very, very quiet, conservative guy, but he just had such a loyal customer base that he had generations of families coming to him because he was so honest and authentic. So I suppose I can look at my dad and go, well, he knew how to market in an authentic way, you know.
Yeah.
He was just honest with people, and people loved him. So he was very trustworthy. But I don't know if that's what drew me into wanting my own business. I think I've always just been really independent and stubborn and wanted to run my own show, which I don't know, there's pros and cons to that.
Yeah. What did you do? You said you worked in corporate. Were you a photographer in corporate?
No, but I was in the media kind of. I worked for a media monitoring company called Rehaim, which isn't around anymore, but they monitored the media. So I literally came out of uni and got a job on reception and worked my way up through management. And it was a really fun job, really fast paced. It was like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m, so really long days. So I was there for 7 years, and I think it felt like I'd aged about 30 years by the end of it. But yeah, really fun, just transcribing. We had reporters in there that would listen to the radio and monitor things, and we'd provide our clients with media content so they could react to issues or comment. So yeah, so
did that help, seeing the processes that they had? Has that helped with your business?
I don't think so, really. I don't think I ever really go back and apply that so much. I try to work shorter days.
Yeah.
No, I think I just learned as I've gone, I think, and I think I've just pulled from all sorts of areas of my life. I think people have influenced me more than my previous work history. Just seeing what other people do and being surrounded by people that are doing things well.
Yeah.
I don't know. How about you?
Well, my engineering days, when I used to be an engineer,
You're an engineer.
I used to be electrical engineer.
I was going to say what sort, because when you say engineer, like there's like a million options, aren't there?
The good one. It was the process they had. It was like an animal house. There was like just all these guys, testosterone. No one really knew what they were doing, but it was a successful company. So, but I didn't implement any of that. So the engineering place was just like I didn't really learn any processes in place that I could implement into my own business, which was a little bit sad now that I look back on it, because I'm sure they had they would bring in I think $1 billion projects.
Wow.
I think we did Qatar's National Bank. So I was the young engineer, the graduate engineer working on that project.
You must have been young, because you still look young.
I'm 30.
Must be that peninsula lifestyle.
Yeah, I know, right? I've regressed in age.
Everyone needs to move down there.
Yeah, I was probably 22.
Right. Yeah.
And they gave me so much responsibility.
So much opportunity. That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh.
But that would help you deal with responsibility now, running a team and running a business, surely.
Well, I went traveling for a long time after that. So I lost all the I was like carefree kind of guy.
Yeah.
But that was what taught me a lot.
Traveling.
Yeah, traveling taught me a lot.
Just
it was
looking
nice.
out for yourself.
Yeah. Understanding how people work, how people deal with situations.
Yeah.
And I realized it's and now we can have staff all over the world because we know how to communicate with them. Yeah. And that's where I started my business when I was overseas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I was running out of money.
Where were you?
I was in Thailand, in Bangkok.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, we've only got $1,000 left in the account. I was like, oh.
Better start a business.
Yeah.
So I can stay.
And I just hustled my way into getting a client. I had no idea what I was going to do.
That's great. Yeah. But there you go. I think you need ingenuity in business, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it's like what do they say? It's like an entrepreneur. You jump off a cliff and you build a plane on the way down.
I think running a business is just solving problems, isn't it? Really, one after the other, and do what you love in the middle. So that's what I think. I think it's just learning. You know what my past job did teach me? They had a lot of fun. It was quite a young team, and it was always a lot of fun in the office. So I think it just taught me that I always wanted to just do something I loved, and that was fun.
Yeah.
I know that's a pretty brief for a job, but
do you feel you're there?
Yeah, and I have been for 15 years, and I think I'm not someone who was born with a grandfather who handed me a box brownie or an instinctive photographic eye. I did not know what I wanted to do for years, and I thought every time I got to the next level in my education, I would find out something would hit me, and it never did. I went off and did arts, and I studied Japanese and psychology.
What?
Crazy.
Wow.
I lived in Norway for a year as an exchange student.
What?
Between year 11 and year 12. A lot of kids did that exchange thing when I was at school. I think they still do. And I've always been a travel bug, and I loved that experience so much, and learning the language and communicating in a new language, that I came back to Australia and I was like, I just want to speak another language. And the Asian tourism boom was on at the time. So everyone was like, you've got to learn Japanese. So I went off and studied Japanese at Monash and really struggled. I literally joined a dance club and just danced my way through uni. But I was still like, I just don't know what I want to do. And then I'd always loved photography, but I just came from a very typical blue collar, white collar, I don't know, family. Just didn't necessarily think I was someone who had a creative mind or eye. So I suppose even though I loved the idea of it, I never entertained it for years. And I went over, then I did the London thing for 2 years, worked and holidayed in London and took a lot of snaps while I was there, went to the portrait gallery, and on that experience is always in my mind as the turning point where I just remember looking at the portraits on the gallery wall thinking, I would just love to be able to do that. That was all that was what hit me. And when I came back to Melbourne, I dated a guy for a few months, and he just finally handed me a brochure for the Melbourne Camera Club and said, would you just go and do a short course?
Wow.
And that was it. And so I always feel like I'm a good example of someone who didn't necessarily follow their passion, but I just found my passion and I worked at it and I have made it work, and I get up every morning, even on the shit days, so feeling so lucky that I get to do what I love.
Yeah.
That's what I love about my job. And I wish everyone was able to do that. Just get up and, mind you, I have to say, today's my first day back at the studio from holidays. So
you got a fine.
I could have stayed at home today. And I got a fine. Oh my gosh. Yes, I got a fine. Anyway, other good things have happened today. That's all right.
Like this podcast.
Yeah, like this podcast. Yes.
Good.
Yeah, and other things. So it's been a great day. It is good. You do feel lucky to be able to do what you love, though, and something creative. You're the same. You get to do new stuff every day, work with really cool people. My clients really inspire me. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Lucky.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fi, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for letting me just waffle for a bit.
Please, that's what we do.
It was fun. Really
it was,
fun.
Wasn't it?
And you are by far the highest tech podcast I've ever been on, and I'm sure ever will be on.
I've tricked you with a few cables. I just put a few cables on the table.
Yeah, they're not even on, are they?
It's not today. It
just
is.
for show.
We've got number 24 on there. I'm not sure what that does. But
yeah. No, this has been really fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks everyone for listening.